The parking lot outside Mac's Diner sat quiet under the bleeding colors of sunset. 18 motorcycles gleamed in a perfect row, chrome catching the last gold light of October. Inside, the Hells Angels chapter from Nevada's high desert ate in silence. Road-weary men who spoke mostly in nods and the scrape of forks on ceramic. If you enjoy stories of unexpected heroes and silent acts of honor, subscribe now, because this journey will restore your faith in strangers who keep their word. Then the door opened. A woman stood in the threshold, backlit by dying sun, one hand gripping the doorframe. Her other hand swept the air in front of her, fingers trembling. She wore dark glasses despite the fading light. Her clothes hung loose like she'd forgotten to eat for days. Dirt streaked her jeans. Blood crusted beneath her fingernails. The diner went still. She took 3 careful steps inside, her breathing ragged. "Please," she whispered. "I need help. My dog. My guide dog. Someone took him." The bartender moved first. "Ma'am, you should call the police." "I did." Her voice cracked. 3 days ago. They said it's not a priority. They said dogs run away all the time." She turned her face toward the sound of leather and denim, toward the corner where the bikers sat. "But he didn't run away. Someone stole him. And I can't survive without him." Thane Cordova set down his coffee. He was 49, grey threading through his beard, a scar bisecting his left eyebrow from a bottle fight in Reno 20 years back. He'd seen plenty of desperate people. Most were lying, but this woman, her hands shook like she was holding back an earthquake. "What's your name?" he asked. "Rhiannon." She took another step, misjudged the distance, stumbled. Thane was up before she hit the floor, catching her elbow. Her dark glasses tilted, and for a second he saw her eyes, clouded, unfocused, lost. "Easy," he said. "Sit down." She collapsed into the booth across from him. The other bikers watched in silence. Thane's second in command, a man called Ironwood, leaned back and crossed his arms. "Start from the beginning," Thane said. "Slow." Rhiannon pulled in a breath. 3 days ago, I was walking home from the library. I live 2 miles outside Sparrow Creek. Cobalt, my dog. He's a black Labrador. Trained since he was 8 weeks old. He's 7 now. He knows every step of that route. Her voice steadied as she spoke, like reciting facts kept her from falling apart. "We were half a mile from home when someone grabbed me from behind. I heard a van door slide open. They hit me, something hard across my shoulders. I fell. I heard Cobalt barking, snarling. Then the van drove away, and he was gone." "You didn't see the van?" Ironwood asked, then winced. "Sorry, I didn't see anything," Rhiannon said flatly. "I'm blind. Have been since I was 19. Cobalt is my eyes. Without him I can't work. I can't cross streets. I can't tell if someone's standing in front of me or if I'm about to walk into traffic." She turned her face toward Thane, as if she could sense him there. "The police took a report. They said they'd keep an eye out, but I know what that means. It means nothing." Thane studied her. Dirt under her nails, blood from where she'd crawled along gravel, probably, trying to find her way home. 3 days stumbling blind through a town that didn't care. "Why come to us?" he asked. Rhiannon's jaw tightened. "Because I heard stories about bikers who help people when no one else will, about men who keep promises." She reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out a crumpled flyer. "Someone left this on my porch this morning. I had my neighbor read it to me. It said there was a Hell's Angels chapter passing through town today, eating at Mac's Diner. She slid the flyer across the table. So I walked here. Took me 2 hours. I fell 6 times, but I made it. Thane picked up the flyer. It was a simple photocopy, half torn. Someone had handwritten the time and location. He didn't recognize the handwriting. Ironwood leaned in. Could be a setup. Could be, Thane agreed. But he was looking at Rhiannon's hands, the way they gripped the table edge like it was the only solid thing left in her world. "Please," she said again. "I don't have money. I can't pay you, but Cobalt is all I have. He's not just a dog. He's my life." Her voice broke. "Without him, I'm trapped. I'm nothing." Thane was quiet for a long moment. Around him, the other bikers waited. They'd ridden together for 15 years. They'd buried brothers, burned enemies, kept oaths that most men would have forgotten by sunrise. Finally, Thane spoke. "We'll find your dog." Rhiannon's breath hitched. You will." "We will," Thane said. "But you need to tell us everything, every detail, every sound you heard, every smell. Because if someone took your dog, they did it for a reason. And we're going to find out why." They moved Rhiannon to a back booth where the light was softer and the noise from the kitchen wouldn't distract her. Thane ordered her food. She hadn't eaten in 20 hours, and while she picked at a plate of eggs and toast, he pulled out a notebook and started writing. "The van," he said. "You heard the door slide open. What else?" Rhiannon closed her eyes, as if that would help her remember. The engine was running. It sounded old, rough, like it needed work. And there was music playing. Country music, I think. Something with a banjo. "How many people grabbed you?" 2, maybe 3. One held my arms. Another one hit me. I heard a third voice, deeper, giving orders. He said, "Get the dog, not her." Like I didn't matter. Thane underlined that. They wanted the dog specifically. "Yes." Rhiannon's hands trembled around her coffee mug. "Cobalt tried to protect me. He bit someone. I heard them scream. Then there was a thud, like they hit him with something. He yelped, and then the van drove away, and he was gone." Ironwood sat down across from her. He was a broad man, 52, with a prosthetic left hand from a construction accident in his 20s. "Did you notice anything else? Smell of cologne? Cigarettes?" Rhiannon nodded slowly. "Gasoline, and something chemical, like bleach, but stronger. It burned my nose." Thane exchanged a look with Ironwood. Bleach and gasoline. Someone cleaning up a crime scene, maybe, or someone who worked with chemicals regularly. "Where exactly did this happen?" Thane asked. "Highway 49, about half a mile past the old grain silo. There's a dirt turnout where people sometimes park. That's where they grabbed me." Thane stood. "We're going there now. Ironwood, get the crew ready. Rhiannon, you're coming with us." She looked up, startled. I don't want to be in the way." "You're not." Thane's voice was firm. "You know sounds, smells, textures. You might notice something we'd miss." 10 minutes later, the convoy rolled out. 18 motorcycles, engines roaring in perfect synchrony. Rhiannon rode behind Thane, her arms wrapped tight around his waist, her face pressed against his leather vest. The wind tore at her hair. She couldn't see the desert stretching out on either side. Couldn't see the mountains in the distance turning purple under the fading light, but she could feel the power of the bike beneath her, the rumble of controlled fury, the promise of motion. Highway 49 was empty. Thane slowed as they approached the grain silo, then pulled into the dirt turnout. The others formed a half-circle, headlights illuminating the ground. Tire tracks crisscrossed the dust. Broken glass glittered near a patch of dried blood. Thane helped Rhiannon off the bike. She stood unsteady, then knelt, her hands sweeping the dirt. Her fingers found the blood first. Tacky, still faintly warm in the spots where the sun had baked it all day. "This is where I fell," she whispered. Ironwood was already photographing the tire tracks. Another biker, a wiry man named Flint, walked the perimeter with a flashlight, looking for anything the police might have missed. "Got something," Flint called. He held up a piece of fabric, torn, dark blue, caught on a low branch of sagebrush. "Looks like part of a uniform. Work shirt, maybe." Thane took it, turned it over. There was a logo stitched into the corner, half torn but still legible. A yellow lightning bolt over the letters SP. "Sparrow Power," Rhiannon said quietly. "The electric company. They service the whole county." Thane pocketed the fabric. "Anyone work for Sparrow Power who might have a reason to take your dog?" Rhiannon shook her head. "I don't know anyone who works there. I barely know anyone in town. I keep to myself." "Then why take Cobalt?" Ironwood asked. "Guide dogs are valuable, sure. But there are easier targets. Why you? Why now?" Rhiannon was silent for a long time. Then, so quietly Thane almost missed it, she said, "Because I saw something I wasn't supposed to see." Thane crouched beside her. "What do you mean?" "A month ago," Rhiannon said, "Cobalt and I were walking past the old Henderson warehouse. It's been abandoned for years. But that night I heard voices inside, angry voices, and then a scream, a woman's scream." She swallowed hard. "I called the police, told them what I heard. They said they'd check it out, but when I asked what they found, they said the warehouse was empty, no sign of anyone." "But you didn't believe them," Thane said. "No, because 2 days later someone broke into my house. They didn't take anything. They just left a note on my kitchen table. I had my neighbor read it to me. It said, 'Blind bitches should mind their own business.'" Thane stood, his jaw tight. "And you didn't tell the police?" "I did. They said it was probably kids, a prank." Rhiannon's voice was bitter. "They didn't believe me. No one ever does." Thane looked at Ironwood. They didn't need to speak. They'd both been in situations like this before. Small towns, corrupt cops, people who fell through the cracks because no one cared enough to catch them. "We're going to the Henderson warehouse," Thane said. "Tonight." The Henderson warehouse sat 3 miles outside Sparrow Creek, a rusted monument to a decade-old bankruptcy. Corrugated metal walls buckled under their own weight. Windows smashed years ago, let moonlight spill through in broken shafts. The county had put up a chain-link fence, but someone had cut a hole in the back. Thane killed his engine 100 yards out. The others followed suit. Silence swallowed the desert. Rhiannon stood beside Thane, her head tilted, listening. "That's the place," she whispered. "I recognize the sound of the wind through the metal, like a low whistle." Ironwood gestured to 4 bikers. They moved ahead, shadows slipping through the hole in the fence. Thane waited, one hand on Rhiannon's shoulder. She was trembling again, but she didn't pull away. 2 minutes later, Ironwood returned. "Place looks empty, but there's fresh tire tracks in the dirt. And something else. Smells like dog." Rhiannon's breath caught. "Cobalt? Maybe. Or something else." Ironwood's voice was grim. "You need to see this, Thane." They moved through the fence, Thane guiding Rhiannon carefully over uneven ground. Inside the warehouse, the air was thick with dust and something else, chemicals, sharp and acrid. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, illuminating old machinery, stacks of rotting pallets, and in the far corner a row of metal cages, 6 of them, each one large enough for a dog. 5 were empty. The 6th held a German shepherd, thin and shaking, a chain around its neck. It didn't bark. It just stared with eyes that had seen too much. "Jesus," Flint muttered. Thane approached the cage slowly. The dog flinched but didn't growl. He opened the latch, and the dog limped out, favoring its right hind leg. There was a scar across its ribs, still healing. Rhiannon heard the movement. "Is that—" "Not Cobalt," Thane said, "but someone's keeping dogs here. Or was." Ironwood was searching the rest of the warehouse. He found a metal desk pushed against the wall, papers scattered across the surface. He sifted through them. Invoices. Shipping manifests, all dated within the last month. "This place isn't abandoned," he said. "Someone's using it. Some kind of operation." Thane joined him, scanning the papers. One caught his eye. A handwritten note, barely legible. "Shipment confirmed. 6 units. Payment on delivery. MR." "Units," Thane repeated. "They're talking about dogs like cargo." Rhiannon's voice cut through the darkness. "They're selling them. Trained dogs. Service dogs." Her hands clenched into fists. "I heard rumors, years ago. Black market for guide dogs and therapy animals. They steal them, retrain them if needed, sell them overseas for $10,000–$20,000 each, sometimes more." "And Cobalt?" Ironwood asked. "He's worth more than most. 7 years of training, perfect record. He'd sell for 30,000, easy." Thane's jaw tightened. This wasn't just theft. This was organized crime hidden in a dying town where no one would look twice. He pulled out his phone, took photos of the papers, the cages, the German shepherd. Then he made a call. "Who are you calling?" Rhiannon asked. "Someone who'll listen." Thane's voice was hard. "Because the local cops sure as hell won't. And now I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact hour you heard this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments they reach you." The call connected on the 3rd ring. "Garrett," Thane said. "It's Cordova. I need a favor." On the other end, Special Agent Garrett Voss of the FBI's Sacramento field office leaned back in his chair. He and Thane went back 12 years to a kidnapping case in Tahoe, where a biker club's information had cracked a trafficking ring wide open. Garrett owed Thane his career. More importantly, he owed him his daughter's life. "Name it," Garrett said. Thane laid out everything: the blind woman, the stolen guide dog, the warehouse, the cages, the manifests. When he finished, Garrett was silent for 3 seconds. "You said Sparrow Power." "Yeah. Why?" "We've had them on our radar for 6 months. Money laundering, possibly. But we couldn't get enough evidence for a warrant. If they're involved in dog theft and trafficking." Garrett's voice sharpened. "That's federal jurisdiction. Animal Welfare Act violations, interstate commerce of stolen property. I can get a team there by morning." "Morning's too late," Thane said. "Those manifests say shipment tomorrow night. If we don't move now, Cobalt and any other dogs still alive will be gone." "Then don't move yet. I'll fast-track the warrant, 2 hours max. I'll call you when I'm en route." Thane hung up. He turned to find Rhiannon standing near the cages, her hand outstretched. The German shepherd had limped over, pressing its head against her palm. "He's scared," she said softly, "but he's trained. Someone loved him once." Ironwood appeared beside Thane. "We got another problem. Found fresh boot prints outside. Someone was here recently, like within the last hour." Thane's instincts flared. "We're being watched." "Yeah, and they know we're here." Thane made a decision. "Everyone back to the bikes. We're pulling out, but not going far. We'll set up surveillance a quarter-mile out. Anyone comes back to this warehouse, we'll see them." They moved fast. The German shepherd followed Rhiannon, refusing to leave her side. Thane didn't have the heart to cage him again, so he fashioned a makeshift leash from rope and let the dog ride in a sidecar attached to Flint's bike. They regrouped at an abandoned gas station with a clear sightline to the warehouse. Thane posted 4 men as lookouts, rotating shifts. The rest settled in to wait. Rhiannon sat on the concrete steps, the German shepherd's head resting on her knee. Thane joined her, handing her a bottle of water. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for believing me." "You walked 2 hours to ask strangers for help," Thane replied. "That takes guts. Or desperation. Same thing sometimes." Rhiannon was silent for a moment. Then, "Can I ask you something?" "Shoot. Why do you do this? Help people like me. You don't know me. You owe me nothing." Thane watched the warehouse in the distance, a dark shape against darker sky. "I was 16 when my sister went missing. Mara. She was 14. Walked home from school one day and never made it. Police searched for 2 weeks, then gave up. Said she probably ran away." He paused. "She didn't run away. 3 months later, a trucker found her body in a ditch off I-80. She'd been held somewhere, hurt, then dumped like trash. And the cops, they did nothing. Case went cold." Rhiannon's hand found his arm. "I'm sorry. I'm not telling you for sympathy. I'm telling you because after that, I learned something. The law only works if you're lucky. If you're rich, if you're connected, if you're in the right place at the right time. Everyone else, they're on their own." He met her clouded gaze. "So, when someone walks into a diner bleeding and desperate asking for help, I remember Mara. I remember what it felt like to be invisible, and I do what no one did for her." Rhiannon nodded slowly. "Cobalt isn't just a dog to me. I know. He's the only reason I can pretend to be normal. Without him, I'm just the blind girl everyone pities." "You're not that," Thane said. "You walked 2 hours alone through a town that didn't care, fell 6 times, and kept going. That's not pity. That's strength." She smiled, small but real. Then Ironwood's voice crackled over the radio. "We got movement. 2 vehicles approaching the warehouse, white van and a pickup truck." Thane was on his feet. "Anyone inside?" "Negative. They're parking now. 4 individuals exiting. One's carrying something. Looks like a crate." "Dogs," Rhiannon whispered. Thane keyed the radio. "Hold position. Nobody moves until Garrett gets here with that warrant." But even as he said it, he heard something that changed everything. A bark. Sharp, familiar, desperate. Rhiannon's head snapped up. "That's Cobalt!" Rhiannon was on her feet before Thane could stop her, stumbling toward the sound. The German shepherd followed, whining low in its throat. Thane caught her arm. "Rhiannon, wait!" "That's him." Her voice shook with certainty. "I know his bark. I know every sound he makes. He's in there, and he's scared." Ironwood moved beside Thane. "We can't go in without the warrant. Garrett said 2 hours. We wait 2 hours, those dogs are gone," Flint argued. He was younger than the others, angrier, still carrying the weight of a system that had failed him too many times. Thane looked at the warehouse. Through his binoculars, he could see the 4 figures unloading crates from the van. 1 man, tall, broad-shouldered, opened a crate and dragged out a black Labrador by its collar. The dog fought, snarling, biting at the air. Cobalt. Damn it, Thane muttered. He made a decision that would either save lives or ruin everything. We don't go in, but we don't let them leave either. Ironwood understood immediately. Block the exit. Exactly. We position bikes across the access road. They can't get out without going through us. When Garrett arrives, we have them contained. It was a gamble. If the men inside panicked, things could turn violent, but if they let them drive away, Cobalt and the other dogs would vanish into a network of criminals that spanned continents. "Move!" Thane ordered. The bikers split into two groups. One rode wide, circling around to block the dirt road leading away from the warehouse. The other stayed hidden, engines ready. Rhiannon remained at the gas station with two men to guard her, though she protested every second. Thane positioned himself closest to the warehouse, watching through his binoculars. The tall man had Cobalt in the back of the pickup now, along with two other dogs, a golden retriever and a smaller mixed breed. All three were muzzled, chained. The man pulled out a phone, made a call. Thane couldn't hear the words, but he saw the man's body language shift, tense, agitated. Then the man looked toward the access road. He knew. "They spotted us," Ironwood said over the radio. "Hold position," Thane replied. "Don't engage unless they try to run." But the man wasn't running. He was walking toward the road, toward the line of motorcycles blocking the exit. He had a gun on his hip. Thane could see the holster, but he kept his hands visible. "You boys lost," the man called out. His voice carried across the empty desert, mocking. Thane rolled forward on his bike, stopping 20 feet away. "Just making sure nobody leaves until the authorities arrive." The man smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Authorities? You mean the FBI agent you called an hour ago?" "Yeah, we heard about that." He tilted his head. "You're Thane Cordova, right? Hells Angels, Northern Nevada chapter. Got quite the reputation for sticking your nose where it doesn't belong." "Funny. I was about to say the same about you." The man's smile faded. "You don't know what you're messing with. Enlighten me." "This is business, legitimate business. We're licensed animal transporters. Those dogs, purchased legally. We have papers." "Forged papers don't count," Thane said, "and stolen guide dogs definitely aren't legitimate." The man's hand drifted toward his holster. Behind him, the other three men emerged from the warehouse, all armed. Ironwood's voice was calm in Thane's ear. "4 hostiles, all carrying. Say the word, and we'll end this." But Thane knew better. A gunfight in the desert with stolen dogs in the crossfire wasn't justice. It was chaos. "Here's what's going to happen," Thane said, his voice carrying the weight of 15 years, leading men through situations most people couldn't imagine. "You're going to put those dogs back in their cages. You're going to sit down and wait, and when the FBI gets here in—" he checked his watch. "90 minutes, you're going to answer their questions. Or you can try to shoot your way past 18 bikers who've been itching for a reason to remind people why we wear these patches." The man stared at him. Thane stared back. Then, from the gas station, Rhiannon's voice cut through the night. She'd commandeered one of the radios. "Cobalt! Cobalt! I'm here!" The bark came immediately, frantic, desperate. From the pickup truck, the black Labrador lunged against his chain, nearly tipping the crate. The tall man turned, saw Rhiannon being guided forward by two bikers. His expression shifted. Recognition. "You," he said. "The blind bitch from Highway 49. Rhiannon stopped walking. Her voice was ice. "Who are you?" "Someone who told you to mind your own business." The man pulled his gun, aimed it at Cobalt. "But you didn't listen, so now your dog dies." Rhiannon screamed. Thane moved. Everything happened in 3 seconds. Thane twisted the throttle, his bike roaring forward. The tall man swung his gun toward Thane. Ironwood's bike shot from the opposite side, cutting off the angle. The other 3 men pulled their weapons, but they were too slow. Flint and 2 others were already dismounting, closing the distance. The tall man fired once. The bullet sparked off Thane's handlebar, missing by inches. Thane didn't flinch. He drove straight at the man, forcing him to dive sideways. The gun skittered across the dirt. Ironwood reached it first, kicking it into the darkness. The other 3 men dropped their weapons without a fight. They were hired muscle, not soldiers. When faced with bikers who moved like they'd rehearsed this 1,000 times, they folded. Thane dismounted, walked to the tall man, and hauled him up by his collar. "You just threatened to kill a service dog in front of a blind woman, and you think that makes you tough?" The man spat blood. "You assaulted me, that's illegal. So is dog theft, kidnapping, and attempted murder." Thane shoved him toward Ironwood. "Cuff him, all of them." The bikers carried zip ties for situations like this, not standard issue, but effective. Within 2 minutes, all 4 men sat in the dirt, hands bound, surrounded by 18 motorcycles and a lot of angry leather. Thane walked to the pickup truck. Cobalt was thrashing against his chains, foam at his mouth from the muzzle. Thane removed the muzzle first, then the chains. The dog bolted, running straight for Rhiannon. She dropped to her knees. Cobalt crashed into her, licking her face, whining, shaking. She wrapped her arms around him and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sounds that came from a place beyond words. "I thought I lost you," she whispered into his fur. "I thought you were gone." The other bikers freed the remaining dogs, the golden retriever, the mixed breed, and 3 more found inside the warehouse. The German shepherd stayed close to Rhiannon, as if he'd adopted her as his new person. 20 minutes later, headlights appeared on the horizon, FBI vehicles moving fast. Special Agent Garrett Voss stepped out of the lead car, surveyed the scene, and allowed himself a small smile. "Cordova, you couldn't wait 2 hours. They were about to leave, had to improvise." Garrett looked at the 4 men on the ground, the freed dogs, the opened warehouse. "Improvise. Right." He gestured to his team. "Secure the suspects, process everything. I want every manifest, every phone, every piece of evidence catalogued." As FBI agents swarmed the area, Garrett pulled Thane aside. "You know this is going to be a nightmare of jurisdictional paperwork, right? Worth it." "Yeah." Garrett watched Rhiannon with Cobalt, the dog refusing to leave her side. "Yeah, it is." One of the agents approached with a folder. "Sir, we ran the plates on the van. It's registered to Sparrow Power. And the tall guy, his name's Marcus Reeve. He's the regional manager." "Sparrow Power," Garrett repeated. "Looks like we finally have our in." Thane crossed his arms. "What else are they into?" "We're about to find out." Garrett's expression hardened. "But based on what we found in their financial records, this dog operation is just one piece. There's money moving through shell companies, offshore accounts, properties bought under false names. This goes deep." Ironwood joined them. So what happens now? Now? We take down an entire network, Garrett said. And it started because a blind woman refused to give up on her dog. If you've felt the weight of this story, if you believe in people who fight for those who can't fight for themselves, please leave a like. Your support ensures more stories like this reach those who need to hear them. The interrogation room at the FBI's Sacramento field office was cold and sterile. Marcus Reeve sat across from Garrett, arms crossed, face blank. He'd lawyered up immediately, but Garrett had been doing this long enough to know when a man was calculating whether silence or cooperation would save him. "Here's what we know," Garrett said, spreading photos across the table. 6 stolen service dogs recovered, another 4 suspected based on your manifests. Shipping routes to Mexico, Canada, and overseas. You're looking at federal animal cruelty charges, interstate trafficking, racketeering, and conspiracy. That's 20 years minimum. Marcus didn't blink. "But," Garrett continued, "if you tell me who's running this operation, we can talk reduced sentences." Marcus leaned back. "I want immunity." "Not happening." "Then I want witness protection." Garrett's eyebrow rose. "You think you're in danger?" "I know I am." For the first time, fear cracked through Marcus's facade. "You think I'm in charge?" "I'm middle management. The people above me, they don't leave loose ends." "Names," Garrett said. "I need names." Marcus was silent for a long moment, then, "Miles Ortega, he runs Sparrow Power. But that's just the front. Ortega controls half the county, power company, construction contracts, local government. Anyone who crosses him disappears." "Disappears how?" Marcus looked away. "There was a woman about 5 months ago. Journalist. She was investigating Sparrow Power for environmental violations. She called Ortega out publicly. 2 weeks later, her car went off the highway outside Sparrow Creek." He swallowed. "They ruled it an accident." "It wasn't." Garrett made notes. "And the dogs?" "Ortega needed clean money. Trafficking service dogs isn't about the dogs. It's about moving cash. Each dog sells for 30,000. No paper trail, no questions. The buyers overseas don't care where the dogs came from. They just want trained animals." "How many dogs total?" "In the last year, 40, maybe 50. Mostly guide dogs, therapy dogs, PTSD service animals. We targeted people who couldn't fight back, blind people, disabled veterans, kids with autism." Marcus's voice was flat, mechanical, as if reciting facts about someone else's crimes. "Ortega said they were easy marks. No one listens to them anyway." Garrett felt his jaw tighten. "Where's Ortega now?" "Probably running. He has 3 properties, one in Sparrow Creek, one in Tahoe, one across the border in Tijuana. If he heard about the warehouse, he's already gone." Garrett stood. "We'll see about that." By dawn, FBI teams hit all 3 locations simultaneously. The Sparrow Creek house was empty, but they found records. Spreadsheets detailing every stolen dog, every sale, every dollar. The Tahoe property yielded offshore account numbers. The Tijuana location had already been abandoned, burned to the foundation. But Ortega had made one mistake. He'd kept a laptop. And on that laptop, encrypted but recoverable, was a list of every person he'd paid off. Cops, county officials, judges. The corruption ran so deep it would take years to untangle. Garrett called Thane with the update. "We got him. Ortega's in custody. Pulled him over near the Mexican border. He was carrying $2 million in cash and fake passports." "Good," Thane said. "And the dogs. all being returned to their owners. We identified 43 victims over the past 2 years. Most had given up hope. What about Rhiannon? She's got Cobalt back. Plus, we're working with her to place the German shepherd she bonded with. Turns out he was stolen from a PTSD veteran in Oregon 2 months ago. The vet passed away before we could return him. No next of kin wanted him. So if Rhiannon agrees to adopt him— She will, Thane said. I'll make sure of it. 3 weeks later, Thane returned to Sparrow Creek. The town had changed, or maybe it had just revealed what it always was. Sparrow Power's offices were shuttered, plywood nailed over broken windows. 6 local officials had resigned. 11 cops were under investigation. The town paper ran a headline, "Corruption Uncovered: How Hell's Angels Exposed a Criminal Empire." Thane didn't care about headlines. He cared about the woman sitting on her porch, 2 dogs at her feet. Rhiannon heard his bike before he parked. She stood smiling as Cobalt and the German shepherd, now named Sterling, wagged their tails. "You came back," she said. "Promised I would." Thane dismounted, walked up the steps. "How are you? Adjusting?" She gestured to Sterling. 2 dogs is a lot of work, but he's been through so much I couldn't let him go. "He's lucky to have you." Rhiannon tilted her head. "The FBI told me everything, about Ortega, about the other victims. They said you refused any reward money. Didn't do it for money. I know, but I want to do something to thank you." Thane shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." "I owe you my life," Rhiannon said quietly. "Without Cobalt, I'm trapped. You gave me freedom back. That's not something you can repay, but I have to try." She pulled an envelope from her pocket, handed it to Thane. He opened it. Inside was a check for $10,000. "Rhiannon." "It's from a fundraiser," she interrupted. "After the story broke, people wanted to help. They raised money for me, for the other victims. This is my share, and I'm giving it to you. Not for you personally, for your club. Use it however you want. Help other people who fall through the cracks." Thane looked at the check, then at her. "You sure?" "I'm sure, because I know you'll use it the right way." He folded the check carefully, put it in his vest pocket. "Thank you." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Rhiannon said, "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you ever regret it? The things you've done, the risks you've taken?" Thane thought about Mara, about every person he'd helped over the years, about the scars, the close calls, the times he'd walked the line between justice and vigilantism. "No," he said, "because the alternative is doing nothing, and I can't live with that." Rhiannon nodded. "Neither can I, which is why I'm starting a foundation for people like me, blind, disabled, vulnerable, to give them resources, legal help, someone who'll fight when they can't. That's good work. It's necessary work." She paused. "I want to name it after you, the Cordova Justice Fund." "No," Thane said immediately. "Name it after your sister or your mother, or anyone who actually deserves it. You do deserve it. I'm just a biker who keeps promises." He stood. "But I'll support your foundation. We all will." Rhiannon smiled. "Thank you, Thane." He started toward his bike, then stopped. "One more thing. Ortega's trial is in 6 months. You'll probably be called to testify." "I know. I'm ready." "It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing is." She called Cobalt to her side, ran her fingers through his fur. But I'm not alone anymore. I have Cobalt. I have Sterling. I have friends who showed up when no one else would. Thane nodded. We'll be there at the trial, in the gallery. You won't see us, but we'll be there. I know, Rhiannon said. I can feel when good people are nearby. It's like a weight lifting. Thane rode away, the desert stretching out before him. Behind him, Rhiannon stood on her porch, 2 dogs at her feet, stronger than she'd ever been. 6 months later, the courthouse in Sacramento was packed. Miles Ortega sat at the defense table, flanked by expensive lawyers. Across the aisle, 23 victims waited to testify. Blind men and women, disabled veterans, parents of autistic children. All of them had lost service animals. All of them had been ignored by a system that valued convenience over justice. Rhiannon was the first to take the stand. She wore dark glasses, Cobalt at her side in his service vest. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and then told her story, every detail, every moment of terror, every second of hope when the Hell's Angels promised to help. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Ortega's lawyer tried to discredit her. Ms. Kane, you're blind. How can you be certain of what you heard? Rhiannon turned toward him. Because when you can't see, you learn to listen. I heard the van's engine. I heard Cobalt's bark. I heard Marcus Reeve threaten to kill my dog. And I heard him say your client's name. The lawyer had no response. Over 3 days, 23 victims testified. A veteran who'd lost his PTSD service dog. A mother whose autistic son's therapy dog had vanished. An elderly man whose guide dog had been stolen, leaving him housebound for 8 months. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Miles Ortega was sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. Marcus Reeve and his associates received 15 to 20 years each. The 11 corrupt officials faced their own trials. Outside the courthouse, Thane stood with his club members, watching as Rhiannon emerged. Reporters swarmed her, but she held up one hand. Justice isn't about vengeance, she said, her voice steady. It's about making sure no one else suffers what we suffered. Today, we proved that even the forgotten can be heard, even the invisible can be seen, and even the powerless can fight back if someone stands beside them. She paused, then added, I want to thank the Hells Angels Northern Nevada chapter. Without them, I'd still be stumbling in the dark, and Cobalt would be gone forever. They didn't have to help me, but they did, because that's what real strength looks like, using your power to protect those who can't protect themselves. The cameras turned toward Thane. He said nothing, just nodded once. That was enough. Later, at the diner where this had all started, Thane sat with his club. They raised beers in a quiet toast, not to themselves, but to Rhiannon, to Cobalt, to every person they'd helped over the years and every person they'd help in the future. Ironwood leaned back. You think we made a difference? Yeah, Thane said. We did. One person at a time, Flint added. That's all anyone can do, Thane replied. But if enough people do it, the world changes. Outside, the sun set over the desert, painting the sky in shades of amber and crimson. 18 motorcycles sat in perfect formation, chrome gleaming, engines silent but ready, because somewhere someone would need help. And when they did, they'd know where to find it. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. If it moved you, please subscribe to hear more tales of unexpected heroes and silent acts of justice. These stories matter, and so do you. Until next time, remember, real strength isn't about what you take. It's about what you give when no one's watching.